Hello, everybody. Hi. It's part two of trying to stream this week. Um I did a test earlier and I'm really hoping everything works out fine today, and that was just a fluke. Um on Monday. Um wait, what do I have here? Is anyone here? I don't think anyone is here, but let me check the actual YouTube UI. Because I want to make sure that nothing is going wrong again. Because what do you know? That could very likely happen. Okay, that's weird. Why is OBS like this? Hi, Tina. Um, it's showing me my chat in OBS, but it just doesn't tell me, like, the current viewers and stuff like that. It's not... Maybe I just have to refresh it. Anyway, that's fine. Hi, Nina. Um, are we working? Is it working? I think it's working so far. I'm not having any issues. OBS was just being weird for like half a second and then I figured it out. Hi Blue. Okay, I think we're good today. There's really only one setting that I changed. It was something to do with like a video encoder. Um, but I don't really know how anything regarding streaming actually works. So I'm just glad things seem to be working well today, because I just was like Googling stuff and taking a shot in the dark. No lag. Okay, that is good. And I'm not seeing anything about losing frames. So that's very good. So it looks like we get to actually start volume 5 of Yu today. Like for real, which I'm super excited about. Oh, I look brighter because I have a light, a ring light on my face. It's really more as like a lamp to be able to see the book than anything else. Also, this hat is like a highlighter. Um, oh, and I wanted to show off, like, I stole somebody's idea on Reddit, but they make these like color-coded book annotation, like, um, little tab sets, and I went ahead and did one for volume 5. I don't know. I did my best, like, color matching to it, which is not something I actually get to do while I'm reading it on the stream, but it's just kind of fun for, like, going back and rereading later. And I've been doing it for, like, each volume of the series. I actually, like, I started a reread of volume 1 kind of concurrently. Oh, thank you, Henry. Yeah, because, like, I know with Meat Bun especially that going back, there are things that, you know, you don't register at first and later they become really significant. And it's like, wait a minute, that line in the first chapter of the first book was, like, super important. Um, so people are here. Wait, what are these crowns? Oh, it's like number 1, number 2, and number 3 in the chat. Is this a thing YouTube just started doing? Because I've never seen this in my chat before. Everyone gets crowns. Yeah, the Yapper leaderboard. That's it. I see. Yap bragging rights. That's great. Y'all are just okay. It was in Brittany's stream yesterday too. Okay, so this must be a really new thing. Y'all are just gonna keep like trading spaces. But good. You can fight to be the top yapper. So I'm gonna get started. I don't need to say the page number because we're on the first chapter of the book, but this is chapter 131. It's called I Love You, and I finally get to read it now. Moshi's head snapped up. Gumong's lashes fluttered in the dim lamplight as he slowly opened his eyes, a deep oceanic blue. He stared blankly at Moshi. Not yet fully conscious, expression guided only by instinct, his gaunt face was relaxed and soft. He looked unbearably gentle, just the way Gumong Guga ought to look. "My Royal Highness, why are you crying?" His voice was a murmured sigh. But before Moshi had the chance to respond, Gumong's dreamlike expression disappeared as wakefulness returned. Moshi watched as each remnant emotion of his past, shock, fear, attachment, cruelty, guilt, rushed up like the tide, washing away the tenderness in his eyes. Gumong sat up, yanking his hand from Moshi's palms, his true face hidden behind the mask of viciousness he had long grown used to wearing. "Moshi, are you out of your mind? Who let you come to the Asura room for me? Don't you know?" Moshi's sudden embrace cut him off. The man's warm and sturdy arms wrapped securely around him, as if bringing him out of a frozen lake and into the longed-for warmth of spring. His blue eyes widened. He was so shocked he forgot what he wanted to say. Moshi held him tightly, chin pressed to the top of Gumong's head, kissing and caressing his hair. "I already know everything." Gumong Guga. At that single, simple sentence, Gumong's body tensed. He squirmed, trying to push Moshi away. But before he could put his weight into it, he felt a shudder through the man holding him. "Shixiong, don't say any more foolish words, or do any more foolish things," Moshi rasped. Gumong was at a loss. All these years, he thought, he had disguised himself very well. He'd built up a hard outer shell so everyone would only see his decisive cruelty and brutal hostility. Yet he'd woken up to discover this mask had been shattered. Before him lay the person he wanted to protect more than anyone, eyes scarlet-rimmed, hand reaching toward his soft, helpless heart. He refuted it on instinct. "Moshi, you only know the half of it. And what does my business have to do with you? I told you a long time ago that we're not the same kind of person. I'm really... Moshi cupped a hand around the back of his head, his voice muddled and slightly nasal. "You're really not like that." Gumong stared at him, speechless. It was as if a layer of ice stood between them, with Moshi on the outside, trying to embrace Gumong trapped within. No matter how cold the dark ice was, Moshi would never back down. And so, little by little, the ice thawed. Little by little, it cracked. "You really didn't want to kill or fight. You never wanted to hurt me. You didn't want to avenge yourself on anyone." Moshi's voice was low. Earlier he had cried while Gumong slept. He was no longer willing to shed tears now that Gumong was awake. Gumong had suffered enough. He didn't want to make this soft yet tenacious creature worry any more about him, or hurt any more on his behalf. "It's been 8 years, Gumong. It must have hurt. I'm sorry. I was the one who didn't understand you." In his arms, Gumong's trembling became more apparent with every word. At last, Gumong seemed to crumple under a great weight. He shuddered violently. Moshi could hear the low sobs trapped in his throat, could feel dampness at his chest. No. Gumong frantically tried to shove him away. Moshi had only ever seen his Gumong Guga look brilliant and clever. This Gu Shixiang had been backed into a corner, yet was still scrambling to lie, just to push him away, just to protect him. He was so clumsy. Clumsy to the point of stubbornness. Clumsy to the point of pity. So clumsy Moshi's whole heart, his whole body, throbbed with pain. Gumong didn't know what else he could make excuses for, what else he could offer up in sacrifice. He had always protected others. It was an instinct carved into his bones. Now, no longer able to do so, he was as helpless as a blinded dragon with its claws torn away. He could only repeat, over and over, "It's not like this. You don't understand." Moshi took hold of his hand, the rims of his eyes red. "Must you keep pushing me away?" Gumong froze. "It's been so many years, Shishong. But do you know what hurt me the most? It wasn't that you stabbed me, or left me. It was that you turned into someone I didn't recognize at all. Do you know how miserable I was? You wanted to protect me. You didn't want to implicate me. I know. But I told you, long ago, in this world, I have no one dear to me except for you. When you protected me, why didn't you think what would be cruelest to me? Did you think I would fear to suffer alongside you or the criticism of others? What I fear is you never returning to my side, Gumong. I'm afraid of losing you." Moshi closed his eyes. He still held back his tears, but his lashes were wet. "All these years, I've always treated you sincerely. I used to hope my sincerity would be enough to win me yours in return. But after going through so much, it no longer matters if you love me, if you are willing to be with me. I only ask." He stroked Gumong's hair, lowering his lashes as he pressed a kiss to Gumong's temple, forcing down the tremor in his voice. "I only ask that you give me the chance to protect you, to stay by your side. I just want to take care of you," he said hoarsely. "Will you really not allow me the smallest glimpse of truth? Will you not let me share the burden you carry on your shoulders, even the slightest bit? Gumong, I'm one of your comrades and brothers in arms, too. Would you rather leave me out in the cold, make me live on through pain worse than death?" He spoke so genuinely, with such passion, but Gumong only felt a terrible agony. It had been 8 years. From the day Gumong decided to become a spy, he had planned Moshi's future. They were so young back then, unacquainted with the suffering of love. Gumong had naively thought that, as long as he acted with decisive heartlessness, this young man would feel that loving him was something that hurt too much. If it hurt, Moshi would let it go, sooner or later. Gumong had waited. All this time, he had waited. He'd pricked Moshi until his hands ran with blood, stabbed Moshi until his body was covered with scars, but still Moshi never gave up on him. All these years, he'd hoped Moshi would put aside their past love, hoped he could live a quiet life, marry a gentle and virtuous wife, and sire a brood of lively children. Sooner or later, time would wash away the unbridled passion of their reckless youth, leaving only faint ink stains. Such were the considerations he had made on Moshi's behalf. Not ink stains. One thing I remember from rereading, or like part of the first book, is that it immediately starts with a prologue where like Gumong is like, "I wrote a story about us, you know, like our exploits together." And it's like, not ink stains, talking about their past. Meat bun is too much. But Gumong had made one grave mistake. In this world, love and the lack of it could change, but one's heart would forever be the same. And Moshi had never been a careless person. On the day he decided to confess his feelings to Gumong, what he gave to him wasn't his love, it was his heart. Gumong suddenly realized something was wrong. Where he was pressed against Moshi's chest, he could feel that Moshi's spiritual energy flow was weak, his spiritual core almost shattered. Once more, those scenes from the Asura room flashed through his mind. Moshi's face had been terrifyingly pale when he rescued him. Could it be? Gumong jerked his head up. How did you learn the truth? Moshi didn't respond. Did you go to Bat Island again? Did you use the time mirror? As Moshi looked down into Gumong's anxious face, into those uneasy and frightened blue eyes, a soft, sorrowful smile spread over his face. Are you worried about me? Before Gumong could answer, Moshi ducked to kiss his brow, as if terrified he might deny it. I'm fine. But Gumong's heart seemed to rend apart. A flood of guesses rushed into his mind like the tide, then retreated, leaving one clear answer in the sand. This time, Gumong didn't ask. Tears streamed down his soft cheeks as he mumbled. It was the Jade Scrolls. His long lashes fluttered closed. Gumong tried to hold on, to push down his emotions, to say something to clearly demarcate the chasm between them. But it had been 8 years. He had committed every cruelty between life and death, but nothing could stop Moshi from chasing after him, from walking along this little path filled with thorns. Oh yeah, there were blue. Yeah, there were other stains too. Like the stained thing comes up a lot. I actually know that the book, the original like English title that I guess just like, fan translators came up with was Stains of Filth. I guess that Seven Seas thought that Remnants of Filth sounds better, but like stains are like the thing, like the big thing. Like Gumong is a stain on Moshi, but like I don't know, it's it's complicated. He had left behind obstacles and dangerous hindrances, but none had halted this youth's dogged footsteps. His little Shidi had still caught up to him. When he turned in the darkness, he found his beloved from 8 years ago was no longer young. He was covered in dust, spattered in blood. The only thing that hadn't changed were those bright, obstinate black eyes. The lover he had relinquished ran toward him, overtook him, and stood in the thicket of brambles, panting as he said, Shishong, Gumong, I've come to find you. Let's go home. That layer of ice shattered completely, bursting into gleaming motes of light. The man who had lain frozen and dormant beneath the ice was finally taken into his little Shidi's arms. Gumong could bear it no more. That bowstring strained to breaking for 8 years finally snapped. He burst into sobs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was the one who looked down on your affection and misread your stubborn, immovable heart. I was the one who made rash choices in your stead and didn't ask which path you were willing to walk. I was the one who disrespected your wishes, who mistook what you cared about most, and imposed my plans on your life. I was the one who deceived you all along, who didn't give you the chance to walk with me. It's been 8 years. I've injured you, harmed you, estranged you, stabbed you. I've disappointed you in so many ways. I even nearly killed you. Oh, why didn't you turn back? My little dummy, my princess, my highness. Why did you still risk devastation to uncover the truth, and then rush to my side, covered in wounds? Why are you so silly? He didn't say any of that. Moshi, I'm sorry. The hand caressing Gumong's hair stilled. Misunderstanding Gumong's intent, Moshi said, Don't worry. I know what you've chosen, and I know what you've had to face, endure, and sacrifice. You don't need to apologize to me. In truth, as I told you long ago, if you really don't love me and don't want to be involved with me, I won't force it. As long as you come back. As he spoke, the rims of his eyes slowly reddened, his lips gently brushing Gumong's brow like the most devout prayer. As long as you're okay. as long as you let me stay by your side and give me a chance to share your burdens. Gumong, my dear Shishong, that would be enough for me. At this point, he feared his embrace would make Gumong uncomfortable. He lowered his head and longingly pressed his jaw once more to Gumong's forehead, preparing to let go. Strong arms suddenly wrapped around him. Gumong clutched at him like a beast separated from its pack, finally returning, his throat already choked with sobs. This lost and wandering man, who had been alone too long, endured too much, and swallowed a secret in silence for 8 years, at long last broke down weeping in his lover's arms. Pressing his forehead to Moshi's heart, he howled with grief, as if to shed all his heartache and suffering with these tears. Gumong hugged Moshi tight around the waist, the slender ends of his eyes pitifully wet and red. Between sobs, he spoke the words that had festered in his heart all this time, the words that had nearly rotted to their core. It hurt too much, Moshi. It really hurt too much. He clung to Moshi like a drowning man clinging to a piece of driftwood, despairing and exhausted. Moshi's heart clenched. He caressed Gumong's hair, murmuring in a low voice, I know, I know. Oh, Henry, I'm sorry. You go from listening to Epic the Musical to reading Yuwu. That's a lot. I did everything alone. I had to do everything alone. All those years, I couldn't say a word about how I really felt to the people around me. I killed the citizens and cultivators of my own nation, killed my comrades. It hurt so much, Moshi. I know. Moshi's voice was tearful. I thought I would go insane, like there was a knife stabbing at me, every day and every night, every hour, every moment, but I had to say, stab me harder, stab me more. Gumong trembled, closing his eyes in anguish. I didn't want to kill anyone. I wanted to come back to Chonghua. I wish Liu Jianqing were still alive. I wish none of it had ever happened. I know. Go ahead and say it. You'll feel better once you say it. I'm here with you. I'll stay by your side. But Gumong had stopped speaking. He stared ahead with blue eyes washed clear by tears. After a long while, he murmured, voice low, I didn't want to leave you either. Moshi had intended to continue comforting him, to keep saying, I know, I understand, but this shocked him to stillness. For a long moment, neither of them broke the silence. There was only the pounding of their hearts, thump, 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 so urgent and fast, as if some truth that had been buried deep within for many years was straining to break out. Gumong was an indomitable person, always emanating a courage that reassured others. But right now he was timid, like someone who had long wallowed in poverty, cautiously reaching out to take hold of a precious gift he thought he would never receive. His voice was a whisper. I didn't want to lie to you. I didn't want you to leave. I never wanted. There was a pause before Gumong continued. I don't want to see you leave. I don't want to see you with anyone else. Moshi's hand paused. His refined features blanched, then flushed. It was obvious he had given up hope. He had accepted the idea of them being no more than martial brothers. As long as he could see Gumong healthy, happy, and carefree, it was fine. He wouldn't force him into anything, impose on him, or otherwise bother him again. But Gumong's words seemed to reignite the flame he had just extinguished within himself. Gumong closed his eyes. Years of falsehood shattered with his next words. Moshi, I do love you. Chapter title, everybody. And it was Gumong saying it. Moshi's heart seemed to freeze over. Its beating stalled. He gazed at the man in front of him, at that tearful and wan, yet genuine face. Even in the sweetest dreams he ever had, he didn't dare dream that Gumong might sincerely speak these words. I love you. I've always loved you. I'm sorry. I was selfish in the past. I was the one who didn't think about what you wanted or what you were afraid of. I wanted to protect you in my own way, but I didn't know. Didn't know. Didn't know you would stumble after me to make up for 8 years of lost time. That you would forsake the best of your youth trying to bring me back. I didn't know you were sure of your choice at such a young age, that you would devote a lifetime to one person. I didn't know that even after enduring so much, you would still walk beside me, even into hell. He fell silent. Moshi, teary-eyed himself, tilted Gumong's face upward. He reached out to wipe the tear tracks off Gumong's cheek, little by little. Didn't know I loved you too, he murmured. That I could love you for so long. Gumong lowered his lashes. I'm sorry. I lied to you for so many years. Moshi was quiet. Do you still want me? Dummy. Since the first time I confessed to you, I said once I choose someone, it's for a lifetime. Though Moshi's heart was trembling, he strove to appear calm. He had warned himself not to cry in front of Gumong anymore. Those tear-damp phoenix eyes curved, an endlessly brilliant, endlessly sorrowful smile unfolding over his features. I'll give you everything I promised you, he said. It's only been 8 years. We still have long lives ahead of us. How could I not want you? After enduring countless unwilling lies, after experiencing so many sorrows, joys, separations, and reunions, the two of them stared at each other, blankly and foolishly. Their chance to reconcile and reunite had finally come, so neither continued to weep. But both understood, though their lives were long, they would never recover the health that once belonged to them. They couldn't set aside their cares and speak only of happy things either. Destiny and circumstance had long tormented them, leaving them covered in wounds. But when their misty eyes met, slowly and through tears, still they gathered all the courage and warmth in their hearts and offered it up to each other as the softest smile. A pair of trapped beasts, both carpeted with scars, could finally hold one another and nestle into each other, with no distance or misunderstanding between them. The layer of ice had melted. They could finally take warmth from each other and share each other's pain. From now on, whether in the endless depths of winter or the eternal warmth of spring, they would be together, never again to part. Well, that's the end of the first chapter of book 5. We're all I'm not crying yet, but it could still happen. Crying eternally too. When you read this book, you just cry eternally. We're on page 21 for chapter 132, which is Candy sweeter or am I? Okay. Slowly, Gumong recovered. This situation was complex. Neither the Emperor nor Moshi could yet clear Gumong's name. Despite his upset, Moshi saw the Emperor's reasoning. Gumong wished to reform Chonghua. If his identity was revealed so suddenly, all his sacrifice and effort would be in vain. Both the Emperor and Gumong hoped Moshi would keep the secret. But Moshi had never been good at deceiving others. It wasn't that he was an unreliable secret keeper. On the contrary, he was strict, self-disciplined, and entirely capable of keeping his mouth sealed. What he couldn't keep sealed were his feelings for Gumong, even if he said nothing and did his best to restrain himself in front of others. It wasn't long before everyone in Shiha Manor noticed the sea change in Moshi's treatment of him. Previously, his handsome face would be flat and expressionless, as if Gumong owed him 500,000 golden cowries and was long overdue on his debt. But now, even the tone in which he spoke to him was warm, his low voice pleasing to the ear without the slightest whiff of temper. While Gumong was still recovering, an oblivious cook dispatched him to the kitchens to help stoke the fire. This wasn't taxing work, just a little dirty. Gumong used to chop firewood and stoke the fires all the time. He followed the cook's orders without complaint. But when Moshi returned to the manor and heard Gumong had been pulled to work on the stove, he went straight to the kitchens and hauled Gumong away amid the servants' terrified fluster. My lord, the cook stammered in fear. What's this nonsense? I just saw that he was idle with nothing to do, the cook said. I told him to come help out. He's still sick. What is he supposed to help with? He turned to Gumong. Go lie back down and go to sleep. The cook stared, flabbergasted. Nor were the kitchen servants the only ones who experienced such an epiphany. The servant in charge of maintaining Shiha Manor's treasures also had something to say. Stoking the fire. That's nothing. I'll tell you something even more unbelievable. The other day, when Gumong was trying to catch Fando, he was running after the dog so fast he accidentally toppled that glazed plum blossom vase. That's the one. The most expensive vase in the entire manor, smashed to smithereens. The listening crowd gasped in shock. Another servant asked anxiously, and then? What happened? Did you report it to the lord? The first servant slapped his thigh. How could I not? That vase is worth as much as a 5-courtyard estate on the north side of the city. How could I possibly not report it? I went right away to tell the lord what happened. Good heavens, that's the lord's favorite vase. He must have been furious. He was indeed. Do you know what he said? His audience shook their heads like so many rattledrums. The servant mimicked Moshi's stern tone. Who placed that vase there? What if it struck someone? Is he hurt? Finally, the fluff. The crowd gaped at him. After several beats of silence, one of the servants let out an undignified exclamation. Wow. No one could say precisely what had transpired between Moshi and Gumong, but the change was obvious to anyone with working eyes. Fortunately, the staff of Shiha Manor were a loyal bunch and not much given to scheming. Under Li Wei's disciplined management, no word of this alteration spread outside the manor for the moment. Say, housekeeper Li, what's with the lord? Whatever happened, a traitor is a traitor. What would the emperor think if he knew? What would others think? Li Wei stood in the open-air corridor, hands tucked into his sleeves, and watched the ripples on the pool within the courtyard. Do you trust the lord to conduct himself honorably? He asked. Of course I do. Is there anyone more righteous in all of Chonghua? Then we'll trust him and not ask questions we shouldn't. He has a reason for his actions. We're his own people. There's only one thing for us to do, which is keep our mouths shut, said Li Wei. I love Li Wei. Li Wei is awesome. Under such attentive care, Gumong's wounds healed quickly. The Fey-wolf blood with which he was tempered made his body sturdier than before. But the painful fact remained that although Jiang Fuli could heal the wounds on his body, he could do nothing to stop the deterioration of the time mirror's effect. Those memories, flashed back by the Shangao, slowly disappeared from Gumong's mind like flowing sand. We still have to deal with this. Gumong knew if he didn't say certain things now, he wouldn't get a chance to in the future. The lucidity he'd been granted was no more than a beautiful illusion, an act of pity by the heavens. I know we're gonna have at some point in this series, we're gonna have like Moshi on a mad hunt to like find Gumong's two missing souls. I don't know, maybe it will take us to the underworld again. He asked Moshi for paper and brush. When Moshi was there, he spoke with him, and when Moshi was not, he sat alone, setting down the things he remembered in writing. Every day when he woke, he read what he wrote the day before. If there was anything he had forgotten, he would memorize it anew. He was doing his utmost to maintain this small measure of clarity. Once, when Gumong was sleeping, Moshi glanced at some of the expensive sheaves of paper he had stacked by his pillow. The most eye-catching passage told of their first meeting at the academy. In it, Gumong had written, "He sat beneath a tree, eating a zongzi. He looked up and glanced at me, but unfortunately, his face was a complete blank. Ah, he probably had no impression of me at all." Okay, that's not... Yeah, I think we know that that's not the case. Oof. Do you know what this weirdly reminds me of? Actually, no, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil a book for people who haven't read it. But in a certain book, a certain person comes across a room full of, like, paintings of himself. And it just weirdly reminded me of that. Like, Moshi seeing what Gumong wrote about their first meeting. He would have kept reading, but Gumong stirred beside him, opening his eyes to find Moshi flipping through his papers. He sat up and snatched them from his hands. "Hey, hey, hey. No peeking, no peeking." Moshi was momentarily stunned. "You mind?" "How embarrassing would it be if you saw what I wrote?" Gumong gathered the stack into his arms. "If you want to read it, at least wait until I've forgotten everything again. By then, I'll be blissfully ignorant, with no idea what embarrassment is." Moshi's gaze darkened. "Ah, yeah. All right, all right. It's not like I'll forget everything so quickly, for sure, is it?" Gumong added. "Look how I'm going over my memories every day. I might still remember all this in a year. Or wait, no, in 10 or 20 years, right?" Moshi didn't respond or expose Gumong's lies. He merely lifted a hand and cupped the back of Gumong's neck, bringing their foreheads together. After a moment, he took hold of Gumong's right hand, caressing his lightly calloused index finger. There were so many devoted, sweet nothings he could say, so many oaths of eternal love he could voice, yet Shihajun only gently touched Gumong's fingers. He only murmured, "You got ink on your hands and didn't even wash it off." He sighed. "Ah, you." Gumong laughed. "Who's the Shishong here? Me or you? Who's the fiercer one, me or you? What are you scolding me for?" "Of course you're fiercer." Moshi smiled bitterly. "Even now, I can't imagine how you did it. You knew everything, but you still said nothing, and went with Jo He to be a subject for black magic experiments. What else could I do? Sometimes you have no other option, just like you, and His Imperial Majesty too. Honestly, don't hate His Imperial Majesty too much for what he did. Those in high positions have little choice. He could have easily found an opportunity to kill me if he really had no kindness or desire for justice in his heart. But he never did. I don't want to have any sympathy for the Emperor. But in the last book, at like the end of the last book, I was wondering about him. He's complicated." Moshi didn't respond. Eventually, he lowered his lashes, then wrapped his hands around Gumong's fingers once more. His broad palms brushed the sapphire ring Gumong wore. After hearing Murong Lian was the one who gave it to him, Moshi was genuinely confused as to why. But Gumong's health had been so poor back then, and Moshi hadn't pressed him. He couldn't suppress a slight frown as he noticed it again now. Catching the direction of Moshi's gaze, Gumong's lashes fluttered imperceptibly. Moshi noted every minuscule change in his expression, but he didn't point it out. Gumong had lived with the Murong family and been involved with Murong Lian for more than 20 years. Some things, after suffering the twists and turns of time, were too difficult to summarize. Moshi didn't pry, only asking, "Do you want me to return this ring for you? Or do you want to go yourself?" Oh, there's art. I can't look at it yet. There's art. Gumong was quiet. He stretched his fingers, examining that glittering sapphire ring. After thinking a while, he replied, "I'll pay a visit to Wangshu Manor myself." There was a brief silence before Moshi replied, "All right." Gumong could hear the stifled discontent in those words. He smiled up at him. "Does it make you unhappy?" "No," Moshi paused. "But you need to remember to wear a mask and put on a cloak." His brows lowered in a scowl. "There is no shortage of people in Chonghua who would make things difficult for you." "I'll be careful," said Gumong. The water clock on the table dripped. It was getting late. "I'll go back to the study," said Moshi. "I still have some files to look over. You should get some rest. If anything happens, come get me. No one will stop you." Gumong smiled. "You shouldn't take too much care of me. I'm still a traitor, aren't I? Show some restraint in front of others." Moshi's heart stuttered and began to ache. It stuttered because he had waited so many years, from his youth till today, when he was over 30, to receive Gumong's true and sincere acknowledgement. It ached because they had been through too much, and many new and beautiful things were already worn away. They were like two patched pieces of cloth, whole, but changed beyond recognition. His grim mood didn't go unnoticed. "Moshi," he said, playful. "Hmm?" Gumong leaned over the pillows, grinning up at him. "When you're done with your records, come back here and sleep with me. Don't go to the side room. If word gets out that you had me sleeping in the master bedroom for so long while you slept outside like a servant, people will say I'm bullying you." We finally get fluff and cute things that we deserve. Yeah. I couldn't, when I flipped the page, I couldn't not, like, see that. Just, yeah, Blue, just say that you want to share a bed. Moshi looked down, pursing his lips in silence. Moonlight spilled over the tips of his ears, revealing a faint redness. He quietly said, "You should get some rest." Gumong's delight became more pronounced. He lowered his lashes, reaching out of the blankets to pat his little Shidi's cheek. "Good boy." Moshi didn't say a word. Too bad Shuxiang has no candy to reward you with. Moshi glanced up at him, then suddenly bent and pressed a gentle kiss to his lips. He didn't dare kiss him too deeply. An ember was buried within his heart, and Gumong's sighs would fan it into a sea of flames. So Moshi only kissed him once before sitting up. "I'm going back." Gumong touched his own lips. Was it sweet? When Moshi didn't answer, he asked again, without an ounce of shame, "What's sweeter, candy or me?" Moshi wasn't good with words of affection. When he was genuinely angered, some truly caustic statements could burst out of him. But when he was struck by a gentle and enamored mood, he became clumsy and meek. He didn't know how to respond to Gumong's teasing questions. Instead, he lifted a hand, extending 2 fingers to gently prod at Gumong's forehead. Gumong kicked at the blankets on the bed. Say something. I swear you keep getting stuffier and stuffier. I won't be surprised if you stuff yourself to death. For a moment, Moshi was silent. Then he did say something. In that case, good night. Gumong stared at him, incredulous. That's the end of the chapter. Wait. Who looks like he's knocked up? Oh. Wait, Gumong does? Because of the way he's sitting and, like, with his hand. Wait, let's look at this again. Okay, wait. Because where his hand is, like, over his stomach. Okay. Well, you know, you never know. It could happen, right? I feel like if there was Mpreg in this series, that we would have all been spoiled for it. But I am just like... I'm still wondering, though. I'm still wondering if it's possible. Because, yeah. What time? Okay. I am gonna read... How long is this? Yeah, I'm gonna read chapter 133, and then we're gonna go to break. This is on page 29. 14 Years of First Love. Gumong prepared to go to Wangshu Manor to return the ring the next night. To remain inconspicuous, he put on a hooded cloak and a silver mask. Plenty of cultivators dressed like this throughout the cultivation realm, so he wouldn't stand out too much. Before he left, Moshi gave him a jade token. Interest piqued. Gumong fidgeted with it as he asked, "What's this for?" It marks the holder as a special ambassador of Shiha Manor. Otherwise, what would you say when confronted by Wangshu Manor's guards? Gumong paused and smiled. I wasn't planning to go through the front door. I'll just vault over the wall. Moshi took him seriously. Yanking Gumong close, he said, stern, "Don't mess around. You know Muronglian's temper. You'll get yourself into trouble again." Gumong was caught off guard, and the force of Moshi's pull brought them nearly nose to nose. Moshi lowered his head, his breath brushing Gumong's temples. "Hold still and don't move," he said, voice low. He bent down and fastened the jade token at Gumong's waist. Moshi gave the task his full attention, his profile sharp and defined as he turned, lashes fluttering like 2 soft little fans casting shadows over the bridge of his nose. Moshi's skin was smooth and bright. As Gumong stared at him in such close quarters, he saw no blemishes, like jade porcelain that had soaked in the waters of a clear spring. Give me that skincare routine. There. Moshi straightened up. Just show this, and say you're one of my messengers. They won't dare stop you. Gumong smiled as he stroked the tassel on the token. Without warning, he reached up to take hold of Moshi's jaw, pressing close and kissing him. Okay. I'll just say I'm yours. Lost for words, Moshi gazed back at him. As he looked at his Shishyong standing before him like the sweetest dream of his life, he suddenly couldn't bear to let him go. Why don't I come with you? I'll wait for you outside Wangshu Manor. Gumong blinked. Why? Even with the token, you're still worried Muronglian will act out? Moshi tilted his head. I was just saying. Slow realization stole over Gumong. Is it that you don't want to be apart from your Gumong Goga? He asked, grinning. Moshi pressed his lips together. It wasn't that he didn't want to. It was that he was afraid. He was scared to part with Gumong. He knew Gumong's lucidity had a time limit, and his past separations with Gumong had been far too long and painful. Even a man as strong as Moshi felt dread at the thought of Gumong leaving his line of sight. Gumong reached up to pat Moshi's head as an elder brother would. Moshi's heart seemed to melt. It had been so long since Gumong had treated him like this. I want to do this by myself, but you needn't worry. I'll be back before you know it. A gentle smile shaped Gumong's slender eyes once more. When has your Gumong Guga ever lied to you? Absolutely outrageous, Moshi replied all the time. Nina, good points all around. But what if it was a female Fey Wolf? On the earlier point. And did Moshi finally get medical attention? That's a good question, because he needed that. I don't know if he did. Gumong burst into helpless laughter. Ha ha ha, okay, fair point. Don't glare at me like that. I was wrong. You can punish me. What kind of punishment could you bear in your current state? Moshi murmured. Even now, an innate desire for dominance and possession showed in his eyes, subtle but endlessly deep. Under such a gaze, Gumong felt his chest heat and his heart soften. His little Shidi was just like this. He might look restrained, but his love was ferocious. Inside that body, with those long legs and that narrow waist, desire blazed like molten rock. Long legs and narrow waist mentioned. Others only saw Moshi's ascetic and self-disciplined facade. They never knew these parts of him, but Gumong had thoroughly experienced it all. Moshi was impetuous, rough, even ravenous. Yet Gumong didn't dislike these things. Though no man of steel would like the idea of being invaded, Gumong could vividly feel that Moshi was pouring all his love into him, emptying all his desires onto him. The good, the bad, the rational, the irrational. This young man, new to love, had given him everything. In a flash, his young man was no longer young. His Shidi became his Shihajun. Everything had changed, save for those eyes gazing at him, as sincere and deep as the first time he revealed his love and desire. Somehow, this first love of theirs had already gone on 14 years. In the end, Gumong went alone to Wangshu Manor. He showed the jade token and smoothly bypassed the guards at the gate, stepping beneath the arching eaves of the open-air corridor. Wangshu Manor was as winding and convoluted as he remembered, infused with Murong Lian's particular brand of indolence. Couches, soft mats, little fans, and tea tables littered the courtyards as far as the eye could see, and a birdcage swung beneath the eaves, occupied by a canary sunning itself on its perch. It was just like its owner, lazy and unsociable. Gumong made his request for an audience with the guards in the inner courtyard, then went to wait in the middle pavilion of Wangshu Manor, where there was a spacious garden. Henry, the gayest house. Yeah, Meat Bun acting like the second you hit 30, you're at death's door. To be fair, I've noticed that, just that trope in Danmei, in like C-dramas in general. It just, oh, you're 30, you're old now. And considering the fact that I'm like about to turn 32, I'm like, no, I don't like that. Might have, oh wait, yeah. He remembered this garden. When he was little, there was a swing here. Toy bamboo horses had been leaned against the wall, and chicks, ducklings, and bunnies left to roam. All children loved gardens like these, and Murong Lian was no exception. From time to time, he came to sit on the swing and chase the animals around until the whole yard was in a state of chaos. When the young master wasn't there, little slaves like Gumong would also run around the courtyard, using the excuse of feeding the chicks to steal a fleeting half-day of leisure. One day, Gumong had been playing on the swing when there was no one else around. As he rocked himself, he had quite by accident drifted off to sleep. Murong Lian entered the garden and instantly blew up, shoving Gumong off the swing. Dirty slave, you dare touch my things, Muranglian fumed. Attendants, I don't want this swing anymore. Tear it down, throw it in a pit, and burn it as firewood. It's too damn dirty. Such bad luck. I had a thought, but I'll say it in a second, if I remember. Muranglian's expression that day resurfaced in Gumong's memories. His gestures were so exaggeratedly threatening. As if Gumong was poisonous, and if anything he touched, so much as brushed Muranglian, he would die from the toxin. Gumong had still been dreaming when someone pushed him off the swing. Only after a confused minute did he recover and crawl upright. When he managed to sit up and turn his head, Muranglian froze in the middle of his malicious shouting. You. At the sight of Muranglian's face, bone white, Gumong lifted a hand to his forehead and came away with a palm full of blood. The little boy had no idea what to do. He stared blankly for a few moments, then burst into tears. As soon as he started crying, Muranglian panicked. You deserved it, you lowly little slave, he snapped. But as he saw more and more blood dripping from Gumong's forehead, he grew afraid. After a few slow steps back, he turned tail and ran. Gumong sat on the ground and wept. He had never seen so much blood, and his forehead hurt so much. Tears streamed down his small face, but he didn't move. It was nearly dark when a woman ran in from the courtyard gate. Among, what happened? Aya, how did you end up like this? Let Auntie Lin take a look. Auntie Lin was the ugliest female servant in Wangshu Manor. Her face had been destroyed by fire, her features as ruined as vengeful ghosts. Everyone in the residence mocked her, and the children feared her. It was only Gumong with whom she was close. Gumong had been orphaned young. He didn't know what a mother's love felt like. In those days, Auntie Lin would often secretly slip him desserts, sew him clothes, or teach him to read a few words. From those tiny acts of care, he did his best to learn the feeling of having a family. So he burst into even more terrified wailing as soon as he saw her. Auntie Nee, am I going to die? He was young and still lisped his words. He couldn't pronounce Lin, so he called her Auntie Nee. Hush, hush, don't cry. You're fine. Auntie Lin's taken a look. You're just fine. Amang, be good. Auntie Lin will take you to get it bandaged. Yeah, there was, sometimes in Danmei, it's like the ugliest woman ever, and it's like, okay, there's a reason the narration is doing this. Like, normally there's a reason, but every time it just gets me, like, The ugly woman scooped the filthy child from the dirt. Even after so many years, Gumong remembered her warmth and her scent. Back then, he had thought, if he had a mother, his mama's embrace would surely feel like this. He never thought Auntie Lin was ugly. Her eyes were clear and gentle. He'd always felt her disfigured features were like a mask she couldn't remove, and beneath it was a peerlessly beautiful face. He reached out and wrapped his chubby arms around her neck. Auntie Nee. Auntie Lin carried the child to Wangshu Manor's resident healer. He bled the whole way, crying piteously and refusing to let the healer tend to him. Auntie Lin crouched down to tease him and distract him from the pain. Say, Auntie Lin. Mouth wobbling, Gumong said tearfully, Auntie Nee. Auntie Lin. She patiently elongated the sound for him to repeat it. Auntie Nee, he said clumsily. The healer was a middle-aged man who looked down on this dirty child and this ugly woman. He patched Gumong up, but not without mocking them cruelly. What's the point of teaching this stupid child? Either way, he'll just grow up to be Murangong's servant. Auntie Lin's eyelids twitched, as if suppressing some unspeakable emotion. But she was accustomed to humiliation. Given her status, fighting to get the last word was completely useless. She merely smiled at the healer. Then, turning her head, she patted Gumong's tear-stained little face. Come, say Auntie Lin. Even now, Gumong vaguely remembered the feeling of wanting to stand up for himself and Auntie Lin. He strained so hard his face turned red, ignoring the pain in his head, as he turned and said with painstaking care, Auntie Ni. The healer was tidying the gauze nearby and started guffawing without reservation. At his shrill laughter, Gumong stared emptily, then burst into another wave of upset tears. He was truthfully trying very hard. He wanted to pronounce the tones right, to properly say Auntie Lin, but his childish tongue couldn't do it. He was ashamed. He really was just a dumb kid. And this cultivator wasn't wrong at all. He was merely fit to be a servant. Only Auntie Lin would look at him, her eyes shining with tenderness. Very good. Amang will say it right in the future. There now. Don't be sad. An ugly woman comforting a filthy babe. Ha ha ha. Was Auntie Lin ugly? No. In Gumong's heart, Auntie Lin was the most beautiful woman in the world. She had phoenix eyes of boundless softness, and arms warm as an endless spring. He was secretly determined to grow up quickly, fix his clumsy tongue, and properly call her by name. But he never got the chance. Auntie Lin passed when he was only 4. Before she left the world, she shared with Gumong a secret. This became the reason he stayed in Wangshu Manor, without defying or quarreling with Murong Lian for nearly 20 years. That woman, she said, special envoy. A voice called out from behind. Gumong came back to his senses. He blinked away those memories, letting the wetness in the corners of his eyes subside, then turned. The head housekeeper of Wangshu Manor stood beside the corridor. The Lord invites you in. Hold on, okay. Wait, okay, that was... Yeah, that was really rude of Meat Bun. Okay, anyone... Any ideas what she said? I don't know. I feel like that's information that we're not going to get for a long time, probably. But here's the thing, okay. I realized that I misinterpreted something from the last book, or maybe it's possible that Meat Bun was kind of trying to keep it vague purposely, I'm not sure. But when, it's like Liu Jianxing's perspective, he becomes, a slave in Murong Lian's, like, estate at the age of 4, or no, when he became a slave, Gumong was 4, and I thought that Murong Lian was like older than them. Like I was like, oh, Murong Lian like bought Gumong as a slave, but it must have been his family, and he was a kid too. And I don't know why I just like didn't get that. I don't know. I thought Murong Lian had like the secret, you know, anti-aging magic, and he was like actually older. Like I did not understand, but maybe Meat Bun kept it vague on purpose. Now I understand more. Okay, Blue, thank you. Because I was like, and I was in Discord talking to Nina about the cover, or the back cover, and who this one kid was, and I was like, that Murong Lian is like, oh, he's older, that can't be him, right? No. Okay. Now some things are starting to make sense, but also that was so rude, and just at the time that I need to go to break for 5 to 10 minutes, the next chapter title is also teasing me. It is Murong Lian's childhood. I'm very curious about that, because in many ways Meat Bun keeps like signifying that Murong Lian is like a really important character in this series, and it's like Why? Like, what's the deal with him? But like, I want to know more. So, I'm gonna take a break. We will come back and read chapter 134. That's on page 37. Um, so I will see y'all in a jiffy. I'm back. We are so back. I am so ready to get some, like, juicy details about Murong Leon and, like, what the heck his deal is. Because I'm already so... Meatbutt is already kind of, like, painting a picture of, like, oh, he grew up in a family that always had slaves. And he's probably just been, like, so spoiled from such a young age that, like, that is the most natural thing to him. And Gumong has been there for so long that, like, he has this thing about Gumong, and, like, I don't know, it makes sense. Doesn't excuse anything, but it just, like, makes him make more sense. So, we are on page 37 for Murong Leon's childhood. Murong Leon was in a little courtyard of the inner pavilion, smoking as he sprawled upon a summer bed. Several slim books were placed at its head, as well as a small jug of wine. As Gumong came in, he took another long drag of ephemera before slowly exhaling smoke. "You may withdraw," he said to his servants. Murmuring acquiescence, the attendants left. Only Murong Lian and Gumong remained in the courtyard. Murong Lian lay indolently back against the bamboo bed and looked at Gumong sidelong. He tapped ash out of the bowl, then put the pipe back in his mouth. "Fireball is so interesting," he sneered. "Sending a special envoy to my manor in a mask and hood no less. Tell me, what happened?" "It's me," said Gumong. The instant he heard Gumong's voice, Murong Lian choked on the smoke he'd inhaled and broke into a flurry of coughs. Shock, anxiety, hatred, hesitance, even some unidentifiable emotion flashed across his face in turn. "You! Why did you come here dressed like a special envoy? Are you looking for a beating?" Only a small handful of people in Chonghua knew Gumong had recovered his memories. He obviously couldn't show too much clarity of mind in front of Murong Lian. But he was the spy who had buried himself in the Liao Kingdom for 5 years. Deception came as easily as breathing. With feigned sluggishness, he said, "Don't get angry. I've come to return this." Murong Lian blinked. "The Lord said I can't accept favors from other people whenever I want, so I came to return this ring to you." He took off that sapphire blue ring, placing it in Murong Lian's palm. "Thank you for giving it to me, but it's useless. I don't like it." Murong Lian appeared deeply insulted. He nearly jumped to his feet. "Do you know what you're saying? There are a couple hundred rings like this in Shiha Manor. If you like shiny little hoops, I can give you more." "Bullshit. Can his rings compare to this one?" Murong Lian's fingers clenched around the ring, furious. "This one is." Gumong peacefully waited for him to speak. This is. But whatever Murong Lian wanted to say seemed trapped in his throat. Eyes flashing with unsteady light, he viciously bit out, "Forget it. Why should I talk about this with you? The ring was only lent in the first place. It wasn't ever a gift. Even if you didn't come to return it, I'd have gone to Shiha Manor in a few days to get it back. Don't think so highly of yourself." As he spoke, Murong Lian slid the ring back onto his own thumb. Gumong sighed. He hadn't really expected Murong Lian would so easily reveal the secrets of the ring to him, but he had figured he'd try his luck. The real reason he came to Wangshu Manor was because he wanted to take a look around. Within this residence were some relics he still cherished. Taking in Gumong's silence, Murong Lian stared at him and asked, "What is it? Did Zhou He turn you stupid? Say something." "I'm not stupid," Gumong responded haltingly. Pausing, he shot a glance at Murong Lian's pipe. "Only people who smoke that stuff are stupid." You're getting angry again." "You're always angry," said Gumong. "Okay. I'm a good wolf. I won't make you unhappy. I gave the ring back, so I'm leaving now. Goodbye." Murong Lian's slender eyes narrowed as he watched Gumong turn and walk away. As Gumong reached the arching moon gate of the courtyard, Murong Lian suddenly spoke up. sinister. Hold it. He stalked over to Gumong and paced a circle around him, his tone clipped. Gumong, I seem to remember that, before you went to Bat Island, you'd already recovered quite a lot of your mind. That slender, long-handled pipe extended toward Gumong, its curved stem finding Gumong's chin and tilting it up. Murong Lian narrowed his peach blossom eyes further. You don't actually think you're still a wolf, do you now? Gumong said nothing. Let me think. Could it be you're here today to mourn that Auntie Knee of yours? Gumong stilled, then turned his head. Who's that? Murong Lian made no sound, his expression menacing as he watched Gumong. Gumong watched him back. A gust of wind blew through the courtyard, and Gumong's hooded cape billowed. Murong Lian asked, You really don't remember who she is? Gumong shook his head. Don't lie to me. You were with me so long, you should have some idea of what happens when you try to deceive me. I don't have any idea. I don't understand what you're saying. Gumong lifted a hand to knock away the pipe Murong Lian had pressed beneath his chin, wrinkling his nose. That smells awful. Why did you ever start liking this stuff? After a few sneezes, Gumong turned and left the courtyard without a backward glance. His face was calm, but his heart was racing. Why would Murong Lian suddenly mention Auntie Knee? Those who knew he had recovered his memories could be counted on one hand. Did someone speak to Murong Lian? Or could it be that Murong Lian had his own suspicions and took the opportunity to test them? Heart pounding like a drum, Gumong strode out of Wangshu Manor. He stood outside the gates and pondered a while, but was no further enlightened. At last he heaved a sigh and decided to let it go. Yet, instead of returning to Shiha Manor, he took a detour to the Jiang residence. Gumong couldn't stand to see Murong Lian such a slave to his addiction. His old master was an undisciplined person. His father had died when he was very young, and after his mother, Madame Zhao, passed away, there was no longer anyone to keep him in check. And he still hadn't taken a wife, even now. He had every appearance of a wealthy and rich master from a noble family on the outside, but in truth, he was a wastrel bachelor with no one to look after him. Not Gumong being, especially sympathetic towards Murong Lian. Nothing good would come of letting Murong Lian keep on like this. Thus, while his mind was still clear, Gumong thought he'd go to Medicine Master Jiang to ask for something that would help Murong Lian quit. When he arrived at Jiang Manor, however, Gumong found that the one writing prescriptions in the hall was not Jiang Fuli, but Su Yu-ro. The medicine master's wife wore her ever-present veiled bamboo hat, hiding that face rumors named a calamitous beauty. She sent off a patient, then looked up to see Gumong, still masked and hooded, stepping in. Has the gentleman come for a diagnosis? She asked lightly. To pick up medicine. Is Medicine Master Jiang here? This humble one's husband left a few days back to roam the lands. If your illness is not too complex, perhaps I can provide a diagnosis. Why has he gone traveling again? Gumong bowed his head in thought. Jiang Fuli's whereabouts were always indeterminate. Sorry, I just looked up and I was just thinking the same thing, Henry. We still have no idea what she said to that sword ghost. And we're reminded of her, and it's like, yeah, about that. We'll probably find out in the last book. Sorry, totally got distracted and lost my place. Jiang Fuli's whereabouts were always indeterminate. Of the 365 days each year, a good half of them he spent outside his manor. It was said affection put a hero's ambition in its grave, but this saying didn't seem to apply to Jiang Fuli. The man had married a peerless beauty, only to leave her alone at home. Though on second thought, Gumong himself was scarcely any better. An unparalleled beauty like Moshi had been right in front of him all this time, yet he'd left him unattended more than 10 years. Is my husband required to write the prescription? Asked Su Yuro. Not exactly, Gumong sighed. If I might trouble the madam, I just wanted to ask if there are any methods to quit smoking drugs, like ephemera. The gentleman is from Wangshu Manor? More or less. Then I must ask you to leave. Gumong's eyes widened behind his mask. You must know Wangshu Jun himself has no desire to quit this drug. Medicine is but a tool. The heart is still the master. If he wholeheartedly wants to smoke, any medicine will be useless, no matter how potent. Why would I ruin my medicine master Manor's reputation? It's a fun alliteration. Gumong opened his mouth to argue, but Madame Su did have a point. If Murong Lian wanted to smoke, who could stop him? Despite his deep anxiety, he could do nothing but sigh, thank Su Yuro, and leave Jiang Manor empty-handed. In truth, Gumong's feelings about Murong Lian were complicated. He thoroughly disagreed with many of Murong Lian's methods on the one hand, but on the other hand, he understood Murong Lian's mindset more than most and couldn't help but pity him. Murong Lian's father died many years ago. His mother, Madame Zhao, had hoped to raise her son in the image of the former Wangshu Jun. She wholly strangled Murong Lian's own natural talents, insisting he walk a path in all ways identical to his father. Gumong remembered quite clearly how Murong Lian had loved illusion techniques when he was younger. He'd sat often in the courtyards, filling the pavilion with colorful butterflies and swaying seas of vivid blossoms. Madame Zhao, however, wouldn't stand for this. What good are illusion techniques? In the army, you can only ever be reinforcement. Useless. Your father was skilled in musical techniques. You're his child, so music cultivation must be your focus. Don't even think of wasting your time on anything else. Look at Mo Shi. He's as competent as his father, Fu Lingjun. Is he more talented than you, or just more determined? Have you no self-awareness? Murong Lian, buy one more of these illusion technique scrolls, I dare you. See if I don't rip them all to pieces. Oh, what's the Arha reference? I missed that one. After days upon days of beatings and scoldings, those butterflies and flowers slowly disappeared from Wangshu Manor. In his mother's eyes, the things Murong Lian found beautiful were trifles unworthy of mention, shamefully inadequate. Okay. The butterflies and the blossoms. Illusion. Yeah. It's been too long since I've read Arha between everything else. While Madame Zhao lived, the words most frequently heard in the estate were, Murong Lian, follow your father's example. Don't bring shame to Wangshu Manor. Murong Lian lived in the mold of his father. No one cared that he was a different person entirely. The moment he did something outside the confines of this compartment, they cruelly cut his flesh away, ignoring any pain he felt at the mutilation of his dreams. When he failed to meet expectations, he was scolded viciously. Why are you messing around? Go cultivate properly. How can you be tired? You've barely done anything. Murong Lian, what progress have you made? You have the best of everything. If you can't make something of yourself, no one will make excuses for you. Gumong remembered how Murong Lian had struggled violently at first, shouting back at his mother as he ran out of the residence in tears. But I like illusion techniques. I don't like the Qin. Why are you forcing me? I don't want to be Murong Xuan's son anymore. Whoever wants to take my place can go ahead. These words earned him Madame Zhao's explosive rage. It marked the first and only time Murong Lian received a brutal beating. The tiny boy had been battered bloody, crying as he lay in bed, sobs hitching in his throat. He had looked unbelievably pitiable. Gumong had watched him grow up. He watched as he was treated like a diseased plum tree. His hobbies stripped away, his nature discarded, and his fate distorted, pruned into a simulacrum of his father. The young Muranglian's resistance had faded into silent endurance, and from endurance into numbness. The child who had once sat in the sunlit pavilion, delighting in his courtyard full of butterflies, was never seen again. In his place came the flowing notes of the guqin in the practice room, and the melody of the jade flute filling the imperial city, in the bitter cold and cruel heat, amid the mournful beating of raindrops on banana leaves, lingering on in the same way, day in and day out. Others said the qin sounded beautiful. Gumong alone knew it didn't. Within the music made by those precious instruments, Muranglian was mourning his butterflies and flowers. He played their funeral dirge again and again. In the end, Muranglian had become a bent and twisted thing. When Gumong had forgotten everything, he felt nothing amiss with this Muranglian who was constantly intoxicated by this narcotic drug. But after recovering his childhood memories in the time mirror, it troubled him. Others thought Muranglian a man rotten to his core, but Gumong had served him practically since toddlerhood. He knew better than anyone else that Muranglian oughtn't have wasted away like this. Muranglian's personality, shaped by his childhood experiences, was vile. He had no qualms about playing dirty and deceiving his opponents if that was what it took to win. Like when he used that pair of slave siblings to gain Moshi's sympathy for the sole purpose of seeing him whipped. Or when he leveraged Gumong during the incident with the slave collar to coerce Moshi into losing at the cultivation tournament. His actions, despicable as they were, demonstrated one thing. Muranglian liked to win. And how could he not? He had been berated and pressured since he was young. He was like a dog who'd grown used to being hit. At the sight of the stick, his teeth would chatter and his body would shake. Striving to stand at the top had become second nature, though his mother passed many years ago. This habit persisted. Oh, we have art, by the way. I'm busy having feelings about Muranglian. And we have art. Also, I don't know if y'all can see, my ring light is like flickering, but I kind of need the extra light for the book. I hope it doesn't look too weird. But what was ephemera? It was a drug smoked only by the weak-willed, those who lied to themselves and others. Anyone in their right mind knew a person became more or less useless upon touching a drug like this. Why would Muranglian, a man with a violently competitive temperament, indulge in a drug that would rot one to the bone in the 5 years Gumong lived as a traitor? Oh, okay, that's good. Sorry, so, Muranglian, did he not start ephemera until Gumong defected? Is that what we're saying here? And then there was the matter of the ring. Although its uses remained unclear, Gumong didn't feel it was something harmful. That ring emanated a strange aura. He was almost certain Muranglian had put it on his finger in order to help him. Muranglian. What did he know? What was he hiding? What had he endured? Gumong frowned deeply, but no matter how he turned it over in his mind, he couldn't figure it out. Instead, he felt the beginnings of a splitting headache. He had to leave it unanswered. It was noon by the time he returned to Shiha Manor, just in time for lunch. Gumong entered the hall to find the table empty and the room deserted. Bewildered, he flagged down a servant entering the courtyard with a plateful of fruit and asked, "Jie, where's Shiha-jun?" The servants of Shiha Manor hadn't previously treated Gumong nicely, but most had quickly adapted to the situation. In recent days, Moshi had shown Gumong such attentive care that even the blind would see it. How could the servants miss the implication? That servant girl flashed a clever smile. "Ayo, What would Gu Xiancheng... Why would Gu Xiancheng need to call me Jie? Please just call me Xiaosu. Gumong was still reeling from this respectful new address when the girl set the plate down, wiped her hands, and smiled as she pointed. The Lord was sitting under the orange blossom tree in the back garden a bit ago. Look for him there first. If you can't find him, try the small kitchen. Small kitchen? Asked Gumong, alarmed. Yep. What's he doing there? Okay. That's an interesting end to that chapter. We're on page 49, chapter 135, which is called Peaceful Days. Please? Let's be for real, Meat Bun. Are we really? We're gonna have some peaceful days? Because that's... I don't trust her. The small kitchen in Shiha Manor was built in a side courtyard, open to the air. An old banyan tree flourished within, extending its vibrant jade boughs over the yard. There was no one else in the courtyard. When Gumong entered, all he saw was Moshi's back as he busied himself over the stovetop. Moshi was no practiced cook, but a thick stack of books with titles like Flavors of Huaiyang and Sichuan recipes lay on the table, as if to give him strength in numbers. He had yet another cookbook in his hand, and was examining its contents with brows tightly knit, drumming his knuckles against the stovetop counter. The sight amused Gumong to no end. This little shidi of his had a habit. He'd rap his knuckles against some nearby surface whenever confronted with a thorny problem. But the last time he'd seen Moshi thus vexed was on the eve of battle. He'd never expected to see Shiha-jun so troubled over cooking a meal. 2 taels of cassava starch, a level spoonful of salt, peel the shrimp and coat in starch. Moshi selected a shrimp from the basket. The fisherman had cleaned them. All Moshi needed to do was peel it, coat it in cassava starch, and throw it in the oil to fry. But here the problem arose. Moshi did not know how to peel shrimp. After reading the recipe multiple times and finding no tutorial, his brows drew lower still. A moment later, a faint red glow appeared at the tips of his fingers, spiritual energy flashing as his fingertips came together. With an audible crackle, the poor shrimp buckled under the weight of Shiha-jun's regard and instantly turned to dust. Moshi stared wide-eyed, like a tabby who'd been swiped across the nose by his first mouse. Huh? Then a mumble. I didn't even start the spell. Gumong couldn't hold it in anymore. Leaning against the courtyard doors, he burst into side-splitting laughter behind Moshi. You, he cackled. How could you use the armor removal technique on a helpless little shrimp? Moshi turned, embarrassment flitting across his peerless features. How are you back already? Gumong bounded toward him, smiling as he wrapped his arms around Moshi's slender waist and buried his face in his broad back. I missed you, silly. I've come to watch the great battle between the beauty and the shrimp. Moshi was mortified. Sunlight spilled past the branches onto his face, illuminating the tips of his ears, flushed a soft pink. Gathering himself, he explained, I had nothing to do today, and happened to see a fisherman passing by with a fresh catch. I didn't go out just to buy it. Moshi gently tried to pull free, but realized Gumong had him locked in his grip. Let go, he said, turning his head. Gumong refused, teasing him instead. You know, I've always wanted to tell you something. An ominous pause. What is it? Arms still looped around Moshi's waist. Gumong looked up at him and smiled. You've got such long legs. That would have been a good chapter title. Moshi stared at him. And... Gumong is Meat Bun. Okay, yeah, we drink. And such a slender waist, with such broad shoulders. Gumong sighed. Someone like you would definitely be a headliner at Danmei Pavilion. Moshi was exasperated and amused at once. His ears were still red, but he had no witty retort. After more than a moment, all he managed were those same 2 words, "Let go." Gumong clung to him and pestered him until Moshi had no choice but to reach his starch-covered fingers toward Gumong's face. Gumong finally danced away, laughing. He brought a chair over and flipped it around to sit, elbows propped on the backrest. The courtyard was quiet. The potatoes and rice, steaming beneath their wooden lid, smelled wonderful, while the fat, speckled chickens left to roam the yard clucked as they strutted through the underbrush, pecking at insects. He knew many things weighed on Moshi's mind. The 2 of them had finally bared their hearts to each other, yet the worry in Moshi's gaze only deepened with the passage of days. He worried that Gumong's memories would disappear, that his reputation would never be washed clean, that the black magic envoy in his body... I don't know where I saw envoy. The black magic energy in his body would grow increasingly difficult to control. So many knives still hung in the air, pressed right against his heart. Moshi couldn't relax in the least. He'd only just obtained his dearest one, but they were surrounded by danger on every side. Gumong would soon forget, but Moshi would remember, and remembering was always much more painful than forgetting. He didn't know what he should do with his Royal Highness, or how to cajole his little Shadi out of the anxious shadows that shrouded his heart. So he joked and teased. To be honest, Gumong was neither so shameless nor so good at saying sweet nothings. He and Moshi were the same. Their first and only love had lasted 14 years, and they shared the same inexperience and immaturity. But as long as he could cheer Moshi up, Gumong felt it wasn't so difficult to say those awfully forward things. A lifetime was only so long. There were many things he might never have a chance to voice if he didn't do so now. Meat bun. Thank you about the knives imagery. Oh, we know. Princess, you're really pretty. Honestly, I never properly paid you this compliment before, but I've always thought so in my heart. Moshi remained silent. I love you. I'm very happy when you're in my sight. Also very happy when you're in my arms. Happiest when you're in my bed. Moshi dropped the bowl of starch with a clatter and turned to look at Gumong, helpless with embarrassment. Are you doing this on purpose? Gumong smiled as he sprawled across the back of the chair, raising a hand. On my honor, I meant every word. Silent, Moshi lowered his head, washing his hands in the basin. Without looking up, he said nonchalant. Come here. What for? Roll up my sleeves. Gumong sauntered up behind Moshi and craned his neck to see. Aren't your sleeves fine? Ugh. Moshi knew Gumong had a habit of crying out when he was caught off guard, so he covered Gumong's mouth as he yanked him forward. Shoved against the countertop, Gumong couldn't make a sound. Moshi held him from behind, his broad and sturdy chest pressed against Gumong's back. It was the height of summer. Moshi's robe was thin, and his unmistakable scent invaded Gumong's senses, as though to ensnare him in an inescapable trap. Gumong's blue eyes widened, as if he'd been scalded. He shivered minutely, and when Moshi's hand slid up his neck, Gumong felt an answering prickle scuttle down his spine. Moshi's legs... We got Drake! Moshi... Moshi's legs were very long indeed. When he stood... Okay. When he stood behind Gumong, he could fold him entirely in his arms. Moshi didn't loosen his hold for a moment. He stood just like this, pinning him in a tight embrace. Gumong's knees seemed to go weak under that familiar heat and scent. His warm breath brushed against Moshi's palm. Feel that? Moshi bent down to nip his earlobe, voice low and husky. With that... Oh, sorry. Then don't test me. With that, he let Gumong go. Hand to his throat, Gumong broke into a fit of coughing before turning to look at Moshi. That contradictory man had already returned to his shrimp and cassava starch, lashes demurely lowered. Moshi had always been like this. He could endure every sort of provocation and knew exactly what lines should and shouldn't be crossed. Of course, he was fervent in his liaisons with Gumong, and the heat of desire was certainly stirring within him, but he knew Gumong was in no state for anything strenuous. He'd ever been strong-willed, and always took the precise measure of whatever he did. If he judged a situation overindulgent or under-appealing, no one could tempt him to it. Not even Gumong himself. I'm not sure if that's true. Gumong found himself powerless. He sat meekly back in his chair, leaning forward to watch Moshi work. Studying Moshi's back, his heart, an organ he thought forever destroyed by suffering, gradually welled with nectar. Sweetness rose from his shattered chest. He knew he'd barely recovered and couldn't handle any intense dalliance. But he and Moshi thought differently. Unlike his mind, Gumong didn't much care about his body. After all, it was already a wreck. He merely wanted to offer up all his flesh and blood to his Royal Highness while he was lucid enough to express his love. Okay, ouch. Henry, Moshi only uses the armor removal spell on Shrimp and Gumong's pants. But why wouldn't his princess accept it? Alas, this man cared too much about this broken body of his, wound through with black magic. Moshi's ardent love was so strong and apparent, while Moshi's restraint was so genuine and unyielding. His attitude inevitably gave Gumong some beautiful fantasies that his damaged flesh was somehow still precious and salvageable. That there would come a day when his beloved would bring him ashore, and they would enjoy that carefree companionship they had dreamed of in their youth. After toiling all morning and into the afternoon, Moshi finally presented the fruits of his labor. There was a dish of crispy fried shrimp, one of sweet and sour fish, a pot of evergreen soup, and of course, the only dish he was confident of, the crispy goose roasted over lychee wood. Gumong leaned over the stone table, watching his Moshidi bring the plates over. The rice had been keeping warm in the pot, and with a lift of the wooden lid, the scent of rice and potatoes filled the courtyard. The shrimp are a little charred, the sweet and sour fish is a little sour, and the crispy roast goose isn't as good as yours. Moshi ladled 2 bowls of soup. The tender, jade-green leaves lent their bright color to the bowl, floating alongside 3 perfectly round and succulent fish balls. If you don't like it, we can go out to eat. Stop that, I'm starving. Even if you fed me coal, I'd eat it without complaint. Gumong took up the bamboo chopsticks and picked out a fishball. It was light and bouncy, and the hot and savory soup burst into his mouth at the first bite. Delicious. I didn't know you were so good at this. I bought these from the Zhangji stall in the Eastern Market. Oh. They used to be your favorite. Perhaps you've forgotten. Inwardly, Gumong wailed. No matter how he tried, he couldn't get around the fact that his memories were slowly but surely disappearing. He usually strove to hide all traces of this from Moshi, but he'd slipped up with this little fishball. His errant compliment only worsened Moshi's mood. Nope, Gumong hurriedly amended. I meant the soup. You're very skilled. Moshi stirred the plain broth with the porcelain spoon and said nothing. Gumong sampled the other dishes. It had to be said that Moshi truly had no talent in the kitchen, but he'd at least been so focused on his task that he hadn't made any major mistakes. Even if the flavors weren't amazing, all of it was edible. Gumong heaped on the praise. The fish is sour, but it goes really well with the rice. The shrimp is a little blackened, but it's quite crispy. This roast goose is definitely better than mine. Honestly speaking, there were two kinds of delicacies. Real examples of culinary skill, and the food Gumong was presently eating. Because he loved this man, Gumong could still find all the highlights that made up for his beloved's lack of grace in the kitchen. It came down to one thing. Everything you make is just the best. These compliments left Moshi abashed. Turning away, he cleared his throat and said, "I'll cook for you every day if you want. I'm sure to get better with practice." Gumong smiled. "Next time we can do it together. I could teach you a thing or two. Look at me, look at me. There are 2 words written on my face." Moshi stared at him. "What?" Gumong pointed at his forehead and said in all seriousness, "Cook, book." Lowering his lashes, Moshi smiled and cupped a hand around the back of Gumong's head, pressing a kiss to his brow. "When's missing?" This time, it was Gumong's turn to be confused. "What?" Moshi watched him, eyes dark and adoring. "Mine," he murmured. Gumong's heartbeat quickened. He stared into those puppy-like eyes, thinking, "Aya, why do all the girls in Chonghua think my princess isn't romantic?" His Moshidi was very reserved, but when reserved people spoke such sincere words of love, they were more moving than any clever flirtation. After lunch, they worked together in the courtyard to tidy the bowls and chopsticks. Moshi had ordered all the servants away. The courtyard held only himself and Gumong, accompanied by one massive tree and a few chickens. Their food and clothing were simple. Moshi wanted nothing more than a life like this. When the last bowl was rinsed clean, Gumong stretched. Moshi stepped over and wrapped his arms around him. "What shall we do next?" Gumong leaned back into him, speaking into the crook of his neck. Moshi gave the question some thought. In the past, they had often pondered what they should do next. For example, next they had to make camp. Next, they were to temper weapons. Next, they needed to hastily clean up so no one noticed their latest tryst. They'd always been rushing about. But today, when Gumong reflexively asked this question, Moshi thought it over and felt there was nothing more precious than their current peace. He lowered his head to kiss Gumong's hair. "Yes. There's something very important I need you to do." "What's that?" "Bask in the sun with me." Blue, I'm gonna get cavities too. That's the end of that chapter. Oh, I can look at the colored art now. Oh my god, okay. That's quick. Oh no, stop! Oh my god. After, like, so much suffering, and yes, there is continued suffering, but, like, we finally get some of this. Finally. Thank you, Meat Bun. Just pulling us along for 4 volumes. Like, you gotta wait. It's 4:51, but I think I can read one more chapter. So, we're on page 57 for chapter 136, which is called Dragon Boat Festival. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, the Dragon Boat Festival was upon them. And the Dragon Boat Festival is a holiday on the 5th day of the 5th month in the lunar calendar, celebrated by holding dragon boat races and eating zongzi, sticky rice dumplings wrapped in bamboo leaves. Regardless of how hard Gumong tried, his memories slipped from his grasp like flowing sand. Some things he would remember very clearly one day, but when Moshi mentioned them again the next, he would find Gumong had already lost the recollection. Moshi was left anguished. Every time he saw Gumong sitting in the study, rereading that thick stack of paper by the light of his small lamp, his heart ached sharply. Though he hadn't read those pages, he knew they held everything Gumong didn't want to forget. Gumong read the stack through from beginning to end every day. He was doing all he could, but he still couldn't keep his hold on the past they shared. Other than this, there were some reassuring signs. Gumong's body was gradually recovering. His mind was still mostly clear, and the black magic chi within him showed no indication of breaking free for the time being. If nothing else, they could enjoy a moment of peace. Just like the last chapter title. A few days before the Dragon Boat Festival, the Emperor sent someone to Shia Manor with a secret missive. When the letter arrived, Moshi and Gumong were sharing a pot of green plum wine in the courtyard. Moshi opened the letter and skimmed it. His Imperial Majesty has written to you. Gumong held a round little plum between glossy red lips. He pointed at himself in shock. To me? See for yourself. Gumong sucked the plum into his mouth, his right cheek puffing out adorably. He lowered his lashes as he read. At length, plum still in his mouth, he uttered one barely intelligible, "Oh." After his confrontation with Moshi, the Emperor had fallen ill. He had not seen Gumong, either because he was indeed too unwell, or because he had no idea how to face him. What could he say? He had offered Gumong up to the gallows of black magic experimentation, while Gumong had never forsaken the promise he made. The Emperor's shame was palpable. Gumong's blue eyes were rueful. He's inviting me to pay my respects at Warrior Soul Mountain on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival. I saw. Moshi paused. Will you go? No. You don't want to see him? I already know what he'll say. Both of us acted for our own goals, but if he sees me, he'll make a whole production of it, and I'll have to play along and shed some tears as well. He picked out another green plum from the bamboo basket nearby, popping it into his mouth and mumbling, other than heaping up a pile of misery, nothing would change. Moshi was silent. He knew the pain in Gumong's heart. In truth, Gumong despised being known as a traitor. He'd hated it when he didn't have his memories, and he hated it now even more. Not long ago, there had been a sudden torrential rainstorm, lightning flashing and thunder rumbling. Gumong was still sleeping in the master bedroom, but that night he shrugged on a thin robe and ran through the rain to the side bedroom, burrowing into Moshi's arms. Moshi had been fast asleep and was jolted awake by wet and shivering bodies suddenly diving into his blankets. He saw Gumong, face bone white, trembling as he pressed up against his chest. Stunned and anxious, Moshi asked him, "What's wrong? Does it hurt anywhere?" Gumong shook his head. He was freezing to the touch, his lips turning blue. I dreamed there were ghosts after me. This lone wolf clung to Moshi, curling up in his warm embrace. They were chasing me. Moshi, they wanted me dead. He always looked as if he were unafraid of everything. But this night, amid the furious thunder and miserable downpour, caught between dreams and waking, he was honest and fragile. In the present, Gumong, chewing on a plum, grew discomfited under Moshi's stare. He looked back. What? Moshi paused. I'm sorry I still couldn't clear your name. If you want to pay your respects at Warrior Soul Mountain, I can also. I won't go, Gumong interrupted him. Moshi fell silent. However you cut it, I'm the one who killed those people. I'm the one who took those cities. I have innocent blood on my hands. 8 years ago, when my hands were clean, I went and said farewell to my brothers. I don't want to go there. When Moshi looked up, his eyes were filled with pain. You stained your hands protecting them. You didn't do it willingly. Others won't think so. Whoever killed those people should pay with their life. What alternative could there be? Many have hated me for 5, maybe 8 years. Their sons, husbands, or fathers died by my hand. Not a day goes by that they don't wish to see me brought to justice, to pay for my crimes with blood. If you suddenly tell them, no, Gumong had no choice. He shouldn't be a prisoner, but a hero. Do you think they would believe it? Gumong's voice was light as a pale wine warmed to the perfect temperature. Moshi, have you never thought how those people would collapse if you took away this pillar of hatred and vengeance? How could they forgive me on the strength of a single explanation, a single truth? Hating someone is simple. Letting go is hard. We both came up on the battlefields, so I know you understand. I won't go to Warrior Soul Mountain. No matter who comes with me, you or the Emperor, I won't set foot there again. He lowered his head as he spoke, glancing toward that distant mountain. His mouth was still filled with the sweet fragrance of plum, but every swallow was bitter. He sighed. In the eyes of the living, my reputation has been fouled beyond recovery. But as long as I don't go to Warrior Soul Mountain, in the hearts of my dead brothers, I will at least still be a man with a clean heart and a clear conscience. That is enough. In the end, they refused the Emperor's invitation. Yet they didn't celebrate a quiet dragon boat festival by themselves in Shiha Manor. The day before the festival, they received a second invitation. Who is it this time? Zhang Yeshue, Moshi replied. It's an invitation to go to his house and make zongzi. Oh? Gumong was taken aback, his eyes widening. For you? For both of us. Good guy, Zhang Yeshue. Gumong smiled. He doesn't look down on me for being evil. Did you forget? Moshi rolled up Zhang Yeshue's letter and tapped Gumong on the forehead. It was he who helped me repair the Jade Scrolls. He saw how I reacted. In his eyes, you're no longer a traitor. He's always been wise, so even if no one's explained the whole story to him, I expect he's figured it out. I suspect he's figured it out. Gumong was silent. Moshi patted his head. Let's go. It's been a while since you've gotten to go out and play. Do you miss Zhang Xiong? He nodded. And I'm sure Zhang Xiong misses General Gu. Specifically, that little madman who played Song of Courtship without a care at his wedding. He'd be happy if you came. Gumong lowered his soft and slender eyes, as if the boulder he'd placed over the past had shifted slightly, revealing the hurt hidden silent beneath. Moshi watched as the ends of Gumong's eyes reddened. Zhang Yeshue's residence lay in a secluded corner at the north end of the city. It was precisely the courtyard Moshi had gifted him when he'd first gotten married. Many years had passed since then. Zhang Yeshue was now a grand elder of the academy who drew a considerable salary, but he had always been a frugal and sentimental man, and he'd never moved. As the Dragon Boat Festival approached, merchants selling Realgar? Incense pouches and sweet sedge leaves for warding off evil filled the streets in a noisy bustle. To avoid prying eyes, Moshi and Gumong traveled by carriage. Upon arriving at Zhang Manor, they found themselves shocked. They'd expected Zhang Yeshue to be alone, but even from a distance, they could hear the bright laughter of 2 youngsters. The first was a young man. I'm not a demon. Sprinkling Realgar wine on me won't do anything. An even more childish voice answered, bursting into a peal of giggles. A little girl, perhaps 7 or 8 years old. It's the girl. It's what's her name, right? Then sprinkle some on me, she chirped. I want to see if I'm a demon. Moshi and Gumong turned the corner and saw the little courtyard was already festooned with bunches of mugwort and bulrush, and dragon boat lanterns hung from the eaves. Of the 2 making merry in the yard, the young man wore white robes trimmed in gold, with a golden clasp fastening his braid, and a jeweled circlet of beads at his brow. A plum blossom sachet made from colorful brocade swung at his waist. This was, of course, none other than Yue Chunqing. The little girl wore a 5 poisons robe, embroidered with centipedes, snakes, scorpions, geckos, and toads to ward off evil. Y'all, can I just say, if there was an adaptation of this, not that they're going to do that, but if there was, the costuming would be crazy. When I actually visualize what that looks like, I'm like, I need to see that robe. Her shoulders were adorned with suppression seal ornaments made from colorful thread, and she was waving a little paper kite in the shape of a centipede. At the moment, Yue Chunqing was tracing the shape of Wang, meaning king, on her forehead with Realgar wine. 3 horizontal strokes joined by a vertical stroke in the middle. She turned her head at the sound of their footsteps, and a smile bloomed on her little face. Ayah, Dagaga. It was Chongfeng Jun's heart-mad daughter. Gumong hadn't expected to run into these two at Zhang Yishua's house, and found himself somewhat helpless. Little Lanar, what are you doing here? Xiansheng let me come. I've been living in Xiansheng's house recently. Lanar was shy as usual, but she seemed much more cheerful than when they'd last met. She wriggled out of Yue Chunqing's grasp and hopped over to Gumong, timid and excited as a bunny. Blue, do you know how to pronounce that? Shunsheng said Dagago would come celebrate the Dragon Boat Festival with us. I thought he was just saying it, but you're actually here. Yue Chunqing also seemed to have expected them, smiling as he nodded. Shihajun, he didn't know how to address Gumong. Calling his name directly was unquestionably rude, yet calling him General Gu would be an imperial offense. On the other hand, if he were to say something like Gumong Daga, it'd be the same as declaring he was of Moshi's generation. After a moment of thought, he smiled and said, Gu Shishu. There's a footnote. Shishu, a term of address for one's martial uncle, is used here as a general term of respect for a male cultivator of an older generation. Oh, how to pronounce Realgar? Am I saying it right? The Realgar wine. You mentioned it is from TGCF, I think. Or sorry, as Scum Villain. Oh, no idea. Okay. You've just read it. Gotcha. Sorry, I lost my place again. Oh yeah. Astonished, Moshi asked, "You come to Jiangshang's to celebrate today too?" "Yep." "Your father." "Ah, forget it. I wanted Daga to come home for the Dragon Boat Festival, but I barely mentioned it before my dad cursed me out. He told me not to get..." Yue Chunqing shot a glance toward the inner courtyard and lowered his voice to a whisper. "He told me not to get mixed up with shady people." He hastily continued, "Shihajun, don't take offense. That's just how my papa is. His health has been worse recently, so he's always in a temper and suspicious of everyone. He doesn't even spare me from his awful cursing. Bofu and I talked it over. When things quiet down a little, we'll take him to Huntian Cave in the old fiefdom to recuperate. Once he's feeling better, he'll be way more pleasant to talk to." "You're finally willing to acknowledge this Daga of yours." Yue Chunqing scratched his head in embarrassment. "Jiang Daga is a great person. He's good to me and fourth uncle. Even though the Yue clan treats him like this, he's never said anything bad about us. Before, I didn't think for myself and treated him badly too. That was my mistake." Gumong had been listening to Yue Chunqing's explanation as he crouched to play with little Lanar. At this, he turned to smile. "I'm sure he's happy you're willing to acknowledge him and spend time with him. He's told us it would be nice to have some family visit for special occasions. If you and Murong Chuyi could come and keep him company more often, that'd be great." At the mention of Murong Chuyi, Yue Chunqing's expression dimmed. "About fourth uncle, Well, never mind Jiang Dage. He's barely talked to me recently. I heard everyone at home talking. It seems like fourth uncle wants to move out of Yuan Manor and live on his own. Blue Realgar? Okay. It does look like Realgar. I just was assuming that it was like, oh, it couldn't be that. That's the end of the chapter. That's where I have to stop for today. I have thoughts about fourth uncle, but I don't know. I'm so many different kinds of things have happened in the first portion of this book, which I should expect from Meat Bun. You know, the usual emotional roller coaster. But every time I'm just like, where did that come from? So this was kind of a lot. Yeah. Um, and I'm really looking at that next chapter title. When we come back on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I'm willing nothing to happen. Nothing is going to happen to my internet again on Monday. It's going to be great. It's going to keep being great. And I'm going to get an actual Ethernet cable that actually works at some point. So on Monday, we will be on page 65 for chapter 137, which is called Deceased Wife's Memorial Tablet, which I'm guessing would be Jiang Yeshua's wife. But what a chapter title. I don't know what yeah, so much information. I don't know, so much has happened. We got actual fluff in this series, which like happens, but it's like these tiny little bits, and we actually got like a little bit more. And then we got this like download on Murong Lian, and I'm still, I don't know, recovering from that. Oh, this Henry the Second. I said nothing's gonna happen. My Wi-Fi lagged. The next chapter title is Deceased Wife's Memorial Tablet. So yeah. Henry, I love your Wi-Fi lagging right after I talk about like not having technical issues. Of course. Yeah. Oh, brother. Things are gonna get fun again. I have this feeling that returning the ring to Murong Lian was like a bad idea, but we still don't know what the ring does. We don't know what that ring was doing. I just don't like that we're still sitting here with like not knowing what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Henry, exactly. What every Danmei needs. What felt like the wrong choice in a visual novel? Oh, when you make the wrong choice. Yes, it's like you should. Wait a minute. Wait, can I take that back? Mm-hmm. I really don't like it. Um, I want, but there's we now have, well, at least two like major secrets where somebody told someone something and it hasn't been revealed what they said, and they're just sitting there, and they're just gonna sit there for who knows how long. We've got two of those now. Thank you, Meat Bun. Um, so yeah, anyway, I'm gonna yeah, Murong Lian was also a victim of circumstances, as was everyone, including the Emperor, apparently. I'm gonna go and just chew on everything that happened, and I will see y'all on Monday. Um, so thank you for coming. Have an awesome rest of your week. Have a good weekend. Bye.